first, I wanted to kind of hammer on, some of, some of the hot commodity coaches who might be staying put, because let's face it now, we're 4 weeks, count week 0, 5 weeks into college football. And with that, there's some coaches who are going to be on the hot seat. There's guys who their jobs begin to warm up a little bit, even if they're winning and they're rolling. You look at, Ed Orgeron at LSU. Yeah, he's done some good things. They're 3-1. They got beat up by UCLA. Didn't look good. Kind of bounced back. Huge test this week against Auburn. They win that game. Okay, you're starting to roll a little bit now, and things get moving on. But you have to understand and look through this that, yeah, there's some situations where coaches, their seats are getting warm. And so around, USC's already fired Clay Helton. So there's going to be some openings. And with that, then naturally comes the speculation and the conversation about who the best coaches are out there, who would be the guys that you would want to see hired, and who are like the sexiest names that some of the, the boosters, the ADs would want to bring in to bring excitement to a fan base. Because, there's two different things. Is number one, you want to bring in a guy who can obviously coach the game. You want to bring in a guy who can recruit, but really sometimes you want to bring in someone that's going to excite and energize the program or just be different than what you had. And so there's, 3 guys out there who I really think are talented coaches, and they're where they are they're where they're currently at for particular reasons, all different. I was fortunate enough to call Liberty Syracuse and I got a chance to talk with Hugh Freeze. And after that game, a bunch of people have been asking me, how long do you think Hugh Freeze is at Liberty? Where do you think he goes next? I'm like, sitting there talking to Hugh, seems pretty content. He's making over $2 million. I think he likes living in Lynchburg. I think he enjoys it. I think his family enjoys it. He's got talented teams. He's got a really good quarterback right now, which obviously helps. And so if you kind of open this up and think, okay, can he win there? Yeah, he's proven he can. He needs to continue to get quarterbacks and get guys out of the portal, but I think he'll be able to do that. He has a great offense. He's a really sound football mind. He's getting compensated well. But the big piece, and I say compensated well, is he making as much as he would in the SEC? Big Ten? No. But he's compensated well enough for the stress, because this is the last part of it. Life's all a trade-off. You're getting paid a lot. You're in a place with big expectations. That's great. It's tremendous. And you know what? It's awesome to be in that spotlight, but it ages you. It ages you immensely. The stress that you have on your life. The only 2 guys I've seen that are able to kind of handle that without aging are Mike Krzyzewski and Nick Saban. And I'm not sure exactly how they do it, whether there's, I joke about them potentially being vampires, drinking, the blood of the unborn. I'm not sure, but they seem to have not aged, and they've been at high profile jobs, lots of stress. They've had big wins. They've underachieved at times. They get surly, they get frustrated, but they seem to not age. Every other coach you see at a lot of these big time schools, they age like the president. And so you have to ask yourself, like, am I happy where I'm at? And I think Hugh Freeze is content. He said he played 150 rounds of golf during COVID, and he plays golf every Thursday. He was upset that we had a Friday game because it disrupted his golf. He's a 2 handicap. Feels really good. I'm like, if you're that good, you must be playing a lot, because I couldn't play golf on Thursdays in the SEC simply for just the perception that I wasn't working hard enough and that I wasn't doing what I needed to do. And so I think when you kind of factor all these things and roll it together, like, is he going to stay at Liberty forever? I don't think so. But I don't think he's also in a hurry to jump to just the first job that says, hey, here's a 5-year, $30 million deal. Be a substantial pay increase. But he's like, I've been there. I've done that. I know what that's like. And life's all about, enjoying the time you have. You can't buy time now. And you can't buy, stress and expectations. And an NFL front office member told me 3 or 4 years ago, I was talking to him at Pro Day at Ohio State. He's like, you don't get fired in the NFL, or really football in general, for wins and losses. You get fired for failing to meet expectations. And you can go 11-1, but if the expectation is that you were supposed to go 12-0, people are going to be unhappy. Now, if you're at a school where the expectation is 6-6, you're going 8-4, 9-3, maybe 10-2. Occasionally you drop down to 6-6, 5-7 in a rebuild year. You don't feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. You look at that with Ed Orgeron, who won a national championship a couple of years ago, and this year, like, if he doesn't get it right, there's a chance that he might be gone. And that's crazy. And it's, I understand it. There's high expectations. Guys are compensated well. And I'm not saying that should change. That's not the argument that I'm making here. I'm just saying that some people may not want it. Billy Napier, another great example. He's at Louisiana, loves it down there. He's coaching, he's winning, having success. He got calls about the South Carolina job. He got calls about the Tennessee job. Rumored he was even offered those positions, turned them down. And so sitting with my friend Jacob Hester doing some Sirius XM, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, why would you want to take those jobs when you're going to go there, potentially get chewed up and spit out in 3 to 4 years if you're not winning and winning at the clip that they want you to, because those jobs are inherently difficult to win at. They have a lot of good players, but not as many as the teams they're playing. And you could go coach at Louisiana, you're making over $1 million, maybe $2 million a year. They love you there. If you do have a year where you go 6-6, no one's trying to line up to fire you. And then you can go play South Carolina, you can play the Tennessees, you can play schools like that, and maybe beat them one out every 3 years. And when that happens, you're the hero. Your name's, in big lights. They love it, as opposed to being the coach on the other side of that who loses that game simply because they have good players, but not the volume of them of some of the other schools in their conference. And so it's about the expectation. Billy Napier's happy. He enjoys it there. And last one, this will be where their transition kind of happens. And goes with my friend, former coach of mine, Luke Fickle, and what he was able to do and what he's done at Cincinnati. 30 wins the last 3 years, playing really good football. And he lost his defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman, to Notre Dame. He's an Ohio guy, coached at Ohio State for a long time, played at Ohio State. I think he thoroughly enjoys being in Cincinnati. I think he loves the fact he gets to coach them. They compensate him very well. They're going to be joining the Big 12 soon, but who knows what that ultimately means and what that could transition to, whether it's a continued Power 5 position and the ability to get into the college football playoff. I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but his son's on the team. His nephew's playing on the team. He has 6 kids. They love the Cincinnati area. His wife loves it there. And he's tied to USC simply because his coordinator is over there, or his AD went there. And it's like, all right, you can understand that, but I just can't envision him wanting to live in Southern California, wanting to live in Los Angeles. That's not who he is. That's not his speed. He is the least superficial person that I've ever been around. And you'd be talking about going to a city where the glitz and the glamour, that's what it has to be. And he's not someone that likes to fake that stuff. It's not inherent in his DNA. And so his family's happy. He's making, a good living, compensated well. They love him there. And there's been so many coaches, from Mark D'Antonio, Butch Jones, Brian Kelly, all these guys have come through and had success and gone on to bigger and better jobs. And that's not to say that Luke wouldn't. And that's not to say that Hugh Freeze won't. And that's not to say that Billy Napier won't. But I don't think they're just going to jump at any job because it's perceived to be a great job nationally and because it's going to pay really well. I think that ultimately comes from the fact that if they're going to make a move, if they're going to transition and go somewhere else, they probably have a list of schools that's 2 or 3 long. And maybe it only could be 1 in some cases. And if they call, I'm going to pick up the phone. That's ultimately where I would want to go. And so that's how that situation I think is going to work for those 3 guys. And maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe Hugh Freeze, he's a great actor, was selling in the coaches calls. I think that he's really content right now with where he is. I think his family's happy. I think that matters a lot to him. And so with all those things kind of lumped in together, yeah, maybe he stays a couple more years than he would have otherwise. You keep the Luke Fickles, you keep the Billy Napiers there. And I think that that's good ultimately for football because you have some good group of 5 schools. And that I think is fun, for the upsets, to be able to have these next conversations that we're going to have.